This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup for the week of December 22nd, 2014. As usual, there are 6 different free goods this week, but they are free this week only. So if when you're watching this video, any of these items look like something you might have use for, be sure to pick them up this week while they're still free. And also, there's a bit of a cool change this week. You can now download all 6 items directly on Creative Market. So you can now grab all 6 of these free items directly from the free goods page. So I'm going to start at the top here with Roadhampton, which is a font. The font download includes both OpenType as well as TrueType font formats, and I have them open in Adobe Illustrator to show them here. And it comes with 2 different types of fonts. This one is called Roadhampton Avenue, and this one is called Roadhampton Boulevard, the Boulevard being the more bold variation of the 2. And it also does include separate items for the uppercase as well as lowercase letters, although they do all appear as caps when you look at them. So on top here, I'm showing the lowercase, and on the bottom here, I'm showing the uppercase letters. So if you look at them up close, and I'll show a better example down below, there are variations between typing inside a cap or a lowercase letter. And this font does include a very comprehensive set of extra or special characters. If I go to type and then glyphs, to take a look at what's included, you can kind of scroll through here and see that it includes a ton of different European letters, as well as special characters, percentage signs, fractional signs, as well as smaller letters and even some mathematical signs. So it's really cool that they included such a comprehensive set of glyphs inside this particular font. And I did type out Free Goods Roundup so you can see what the actual font looks like typed out into a sentence. The stock kerning looks really good to me. I think it's really solidly handled. It looks very evenly spaced without any adjustment, so that's a little bit of a time saver when you actually go in and type stuff out. And I typed out this little example here showing the very subtle differences between a lowercase and an uppercase letter. So the letter on the left is the uppercase letter, with the letter on the right here being the lowercase letter. So the letter on the left here, the uppercase version, has a little peak here on the edge. A lot of them have a little bit of flair that just makes them slightly different than the lowercase versions. Some letters, like the C's and the D's, appear to be identical, either uppercase or lowercase, but when we get to the E's or the F's, there's some pretty substantial differences between the uppercase on the left and the lowercase on the right. So be sure to experiment with varying between the uppercase and lowercase letters if you're looking to give your type a little bit more flair. I think that's a really cool addition that they did that. But I really enjoy this font. I think it's actually a font that I'll end up using in the future, and if you think you'll end up using this font in the future, be sure to pick it up this week while it's still free. Next up is Wild West Photographs. This file includes 25 different JPEGs, and the size of these JPEGs is pretty large at roughly 3300 by 2500 pixels, and almost all of them have a mountainscape western theme, and I'll explain that a little bit in the last image. I selected 5 of the 25 at random here to show, so you can get a good general idea of what's included inside this pack. Here's the second image. It's a beautiful landscape image, and on some of these images, like this one right here, it has a little bit more of a hazy appearance. Something I found kind of interesting when I was playing around with these, if you go to image and then auto tone, it pumps up all the colors to be very saturated. It gives this image a totally different appearance. So if you want it to not look hazy like this and you want to have a ton of really vibrant, deep colors, you can just go to image and then auto tone and see if that works for you. It works differently across all the different images, but I thought it was really interesting to see how different an effect the image had as soon as I ran that simple filter. Here's the next image. It's a very nice cityscape. And here's another cool image showing a curving road along this mountainous path. And why I said almost all of these have a mountain theme is because one of the images is completely different than all the other ones included, which is this particular image showing a couple of sailboats, which I'm assuming is on an ocean here. So this one image is different than the rest, but all the others are of various desert mountainous themes that give the Western vibe. So I really enjoy this pack. There's a ton of really great images that I think would work really well as hero images on websites or even as backdrops for various designs that you might be working on. So if you think you'll have any use for these images in the future, be sure to pick them up this week while they're still free on Creative Market. And next we have 6 vintage hero images. This file includes 6 different hero mockups like the one you see right here, and it includes them in both Photoshop and JPEG form, but I think you'll find the Photoshop ones a bit more useful since they are layered and they allow you to change what's actually presented in the various objects inside, for instance this design inside the laptop here. And also on the first one here, under tagline, the folder, this is the only one of the 6 that has different textures applied. If you're looking at the screen right here where it says 6 vintage hero images, there's different textures overlaid on this particular type. So if you want to go in and add different textures that are shown on this particular mockup, do that in the number 1, and then you can move that to the other different images shown here. And inside the group 1 copy folder is where this type is actually shown. To modify the stuff that's shown inside the various objects inside this pack, for instance where it says your design here inside this laptop, just go inside these smart objects. If you click it on or off, you can tell it turns that particular image on or off. When you double click the smart object, it'll bring you to where you can paste in your image. Just paste it in there, save it, and then close that smart object. And then when we go in here, it'll automatically update, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go through these 6 different hero mockups so you can see what they look like. There's a nice selection of different elements presented throughout these, and there is a nice big amount of space for you to put your own type or custom branding on all these images. So these should be able to be modified pretty easily to suit your needs. And these images are also very large. If I go to image and then image size, they're all roughly 4300 by 2800 pixels. So that's plenty big for most web or print projects that you might have in mind. And here's the 6th image, which I think is actually one of my favorites of the bunch. So a very cool pack of 6 different hero images that you can go in there and modify the type or design shown on the objects inside. It's all done with smart objects, so it's nice and easy to do that. And also included are 6 different bonus JPEG images, so I have one of them open here just to give you an idea of what they look like. So they're nice little flavor images to add to your particular website. And some of them, but not all of them, have additional room for you to add your own custom branding, type, whatever it is you might want to put there. So a very cool pack that should be pretty easy for you to modify, and if you think you'll have any use for this, be sure to pick it up this week while it's still free. Next up is Watercolor Set. So this download includes these watercolors in EPS as well as JPEG format, and I have the EPS files open inside of Illustrator here. And by default, the EPS files have this background as well as this drop shadow included, but I'm assuming you probably won't want those when you actually apply these watercolors to your items, so you can go ahead and easily delete those. It's not a problem to do that. It's more just a presentation thing. And I really like the amount of color that a lot of these have, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit closer here so you can take a look at how these watercolors look very closely to pull off the overall effect of being a watercolor. There's a ton of different shapes that have slightly different colors that are overlaid on each other to give the overall appearance of a watercolor when you zoom out a little bit further. From back here, it looks absolutely perfect, and I'm assuming that's how it's meant to be used in actual applications. And this set includes a ton of different watercolors, so I'm not going to show them all, but I will go through a handful of different ones so you can get a better look at them. Here's another vector watercolor, and I really enjoy the color choices on this one. It's a pretty unique coloration, going from the tan to the purples with this crimson red inside. And as you can tell when shown at this size, it very realistically pulls off that watercolor look. And here's the next watercolor with a fantastic set of blues and purples. I think as a whole, this entire collection does a really nice job of picking very complementary colors for all the different watercolors that are shown inside. And here's the last singular watercolor that I'm going to show. It has a very cool drip pattern on the bottom here, as well as a nice transition from the light to the dark blue at the bottom. And also included in the set are 3 different pages, just like the one shown right here, that has a large selection of different watercolors shown in them. If I zoom in on these particular sets, you can tell that the overall size of the individual shapes on these watercolors is much larger, so it gives a little bit rougher appearance than the ones like this, where the individual shapes inside are very small, which tends to pull off that watercolor effect a little bit better. But when I zoom back out a little bit further, it still does a pretty decent job of conveying that watercolor look, although I do think the individual watercolor elements like these tend to pull off the effect much more realistically. But I really enjoy the color choices used in this pack, and they did a very nice job of conveying the watercolor effect using a vector format, which is very difficult to pull off, and they did a very nice job of doing that with these. So if you think you'll have any use for these watercolors in any upcoming projects, pick up this pack while they're still free and play around with them a bit. And next up we have hand-drawn vector elements. The included file formats for this set are Illustrator as well as EPS, so I have it open in Adobe Illustrator here to show it, and I'll zoom in a little bit closer so you can see how this looks up close. I really enjoy these layouts. They're pretty thoughtfully done, and it does a really nice job of conveying the overall idea of a hand-drawn piece. The type inside isn't live, so if you want to add your own custom text to this, one suggestion might be you could print out this frame without the text inside, then hand draw the type in, scan it back in, and bring it into Illustrator, or you could find a nice hand-drawn looking font on Creative Market and then place that inside here and have that work pretty nicely as well. And here's another pre-made layout that I think is pretty awesome. There's a bunch of different elements inside of here that work pretty nicely together, and once again, the type on this is also not live, so do keep that in mind when you're working with this, that you will need to find your own type solutions for these, but it is nice that they did prepare these 2 pre-made layouts. But if you're the kind of person that likes to custom make your own layouts, there's a ton of different stuff here to pick from, all of it with that hand-drawn feeling, so you should be able to make an absolutely huge amount of different custom arrangements using all these different elements that are included inside of here. There's different borders, as well as frame edges and scrolling elements, as well as banners. And I'll zoom in a little bit closer on these actual elements so you can see what they look like up close, the actual line quality up close that is. When I take a look at this, I would assume that these were drawn by hand and then probably scanned in and perhaps auto traced inside Illustrator. They have a really nice and hand-drawn appearance when you're actually looking at them. And since there is such a nice and versatile selection of items to choose from, I think you could really make countless amounts of different variations of pre-made layouts just like they've shown right here. So do be sure to reference these 2 pre-made layouts that come with the set as a really good starting point or idea generator for your own custom layouts if that's something you're interested in doing. But I really like this pack. I think think there's a ton of stuff to pick from here that all works very nicely together. I think you could pick any of these different elements, stick them together, and they'll all look pretty cohesive. So if this set looks like something you might have some use for, either on a project you're working on right now or in the future, be sure to pick it up this week while it's still free. And last up, we have an extremely high resolution seamless wood pattern. So this is a very straightforward product. Included in the set is a JPEG, and if I go to image and then image size, it's roughly 10,350 by 7,700 pixels wide. So this is an absolutely huge image that should be plenty big for any web or print application. I'll zoom into 100% here so you can get a good look at what the actual wood pattern looks up close. The actual wood pattern looks pretty sharp even at 100%, so that's always nice to see. And there's quite a bit of variation in the actual texture of all these different wood planks, so I think that's kind of a cool little bonus that each of these individual wood boards have quite a bit of character to them. And I did go ahead and actually give this a seamless repeat just so you can get a good idea of what it looks like when you actually start repeating it. It does a pretty nice job of hiding the fact that it is a repeat and not one continuous image, because all the different boards tend to do a good job of masking the effect as each of these different boards are offset from one another. So I think this would be a really cool website background. I would just shrink down the original image, since it is such a huge image, to something pretty small. Then you could have it tile across the back of a website or something similar. Or if you have any projects in mind where you might want to show them against a wooden background, this would be a perfect fit for it. So if you do have any projects in mind, or you think this will come in handy in the future, pick it up this week. So that's it for this week's free goods, and do remember they are free this week only. So if when you watch this video, any of these items look like something you might have use for, be sure to grab them this week while they're still free. Links to all the items will be in the description of this video. And as usual, if you found this video helpful, please like and favorite. And if you want to see this video every week, please subscribe. This video is released every Monday to let you know it's free this week on Creative Market. Thank you for watching.